Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. It is good to be back at the home base. It is good to be back in South Florida. When Leroy and I were able to touch down at MIA, you walk through that tunnel, the air just feels a little bit different. Felt like home, baby. It felt like home. It is good to be back, and of course, not a quiet day today either. We were coming off of the hubbub of all the Luka Doncic news. Tonight, Dearon Fox, the Miami Heat, yet again miss out on a guy who we all know have ties to the Miami Heat's captain, Bam Adebayo, and Dearon Fox finds his way over to San Antonio, which, to be fair to everybody, like when these rumblings all came out about Dearon Fox, not a surprise. Not a surprise that he ended up in San Antonio. Everybody had said that was the favored destination. I think what you really got to do is take your hat off to Rich Paul, because that guy gets his clients where they want to go. If his clients, maybe not Anthony Davis right now. He's probably going to rework that on something. But De'Aaron Fox ends up with the San Antonio Spurs, a 3-team deal that basically sends 3 first-round picks to the Sacramento Kings and Zach LaVine. And De'Aaron Fox ends up going to San Antonio. And then other stuff ends up in Chicago. The Bulls, they get back control of their 2025 first-round pick, and they get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Huerter, Red Velvet, ends up back with the Chicago Bulls. So I obviously understand everybody in Heatland is pissed off about this. I am not here to tell Heat fans not to be pissed off, because overall, the handling of assets and where the position that the Miami Heat are in right now, which in making moves for any all-star players, is not good. They gave up a first-round pick for Terry Rozier last year in a pure desperation move. They have alienated Jimmy Butler to the point where he is nuking every trade option other than the Phoenix Suns, which we'll get to in just a second. So the Miami Heat not being able to get in the game for De'Aaron Fox, basically because they didn't have the picks to do so. Now, could the Heat have rushed in there and given everybody, hey, let's give him Jovic and Ware and Jaime, and would that have wet the whistle of I don't know. I don't know if that would have or not. I did mention this, though, and this is not a slight on De'Aaron Fox, who I think is a good player, is that the guy you push all the chips in. Now, not having many chips like the Spurs did, who had traded assets and had traded the likes of DeJounte Murray and have traded other pieces and were in tank mode and got Victor Wembanyama and did excellent drafting stuff. So like, they've just been in a different place than the Miami Heat, and now it's their time to kind of pounce. They're in their mode of building up their core. So they are in a different place right now. I understand why people put the De'Aaron Fox and the Miami Heat thing. I'm guilty of it. I looked at it from the get-go this summer, and I was like, I could see that possibility being a place. I didn't really see this being at a time. I didn't, see the tumultuousness going on with Jimmy Butler that they're at right now. It is interesting that now the Kings are at a place with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, who were basically in Chicago. They do have Domantas Sabonis, who I guess is an upgrade over Vucevic, but basically the Sacramento Kings are the Chicago Bulls now. So that's a little bit weird. But dude, I'm not here to tell you not to be pissed off at the Miami Heat if you really want a De'Aaron Fox. Like, I get it. My heartbreak is not at the De'Aaron Fox level. My heartbreak was last year with Damian Lillard. Like, that was where I fell on my knees, screamed to the sky, can't believe they blew it. Didn't want to hear about Joe Cronin. While I'm mad at Joe Cronin, the way the Heat weren't able to get that over the goal line, I think, is one of the great fumbles that will be looked upon as a turning point in their franchise's history. There's no doubt about that. Whatever this turns into and whatever the Heat becomes, because I do think right now with this roster, I think there's a lot of things to like. But as far as that title window, which got slammed shut basically by Joe Cronin and the Celtics, it's going to be looked upon as this grand pivot point in Miami Heat history. There's no doubt about that. So them not getting De'Aaron Fox, it's a slight disappointment because everybody's in on the action right now, and the Heat fan loves the trade. They love action. Pat Riley sitting here years ago coining the term, we're always looking for the whale. We're always going to be in the game. And the Heat haven't felt like they've been in the game for anybody other than Dame saying he wanted to go to Miami, but never really got in the trade talk game for him. So that is a miss on their point. And not only that, they seem pretty much cornered right now with this whole Jimmy Butler thing. If you guys are just getting in tonight, which it does, I will say, it feels like the NBA is going hot and heavy tonight. They know it's Super Bowl week. They know they got maybe Monday, Tuesday, and then everyone's going to be focusing on the big game. So these move while the trade deadline, what is the trade deadline is officially Thursday. While that is the case, we also have to realize, like, hey, people are going to start turning their attention to football at some point, and then are going to cool down on all this. So it does feel like the NBA is going to strike while the iron's hot. And I've said this, when this whole ratings thing was a thing earlier on in the year. Two things. One, it was in the middle of football, and the other that people like player movement. Like, people dig that stuff. It is, it is the essence. It is why Heat fans are so pissed right now, because they want in on the action. And it's funny because I'm like, I kind of feel like this is one of the more interesting Heat teams in a while. Even I'm not saying best, but I'm talking through regular season and intrigue on what's going to happen every single night. I'm actually really excited for game nights. I really, really am. But I get it. Like, you were right there close to the title, and now you're not. Right now you're a middling team that's got a lot of young pieces that they got to come through. And you got to see the franchise get handed over to Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero, and what can they do that with? What can they do with that with the big alpha dog now out of the yard? Seemingly. I mean, I don't know what's going to end up happening here. So the latest Jimmy Butler update came via Brian Windhorst, and it's a strange one, not a surprising one, but it's a strange one, and it is basically I'll get the exact tweet here, but it says, the Heat's Jimmy Butler, he tweeted this about an hour ago. It's 10:30 Eastern. Good to be back on Eastern time. It says the Heat's Jimmy Butler has communicated to the Warriors that he's unwilling to sign an extension there, and therefore trade talks to send him to Golden State have ended for now, sources tell ESPN. So Jimmy Butler is basically letting it be known he doesn't want to go to the Golden State Warriors. He wants to go to the Phoenix Suns. Now, somebody could look at this and they say, well, Suns, Warriors just got their ass kicked by the Phoenix Suns. Steph, KD, who do you want to play for? We could get into a debate there on where it is. The idea that Jimmy Butler is unwilling to sign an extension in Golden State, I kind of find that laughable, dude. I got to be honest with you. Like, if you were to tell me that Golden State was actually willing to give Jimmy Butler an extension and that he would be unwilling to stick around there and see where this goes, I find that kind of hogwash. I got to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this, if this is a thing or not. I don't know if this is a thing or not a thing, is basically what I'm trying to tell you. Like, I know we're looking for any morsel of Jimmy Butler updates because the last thing we got this week was like a Jimmy Butler Pelicans thing, and would Brandon Ingram be in the whole deal? And I don't know, but the idea that he wouldn't sign an extension with the Golden State Warriors, well, okay, but also that's one of those things where, like, a lot of the Golden State Warriors, like, this is again like, well, there's been a lot of talk that the Golden State Warriors haven't been that keen on trading Jimmy Butler. That there's been locker room concerns, Steph Curry concerns, all that type of stuff. So, he could be getting out in front of him and be like, nah, I don't want to go there. You guys didn't want me. I don't want to go there. Could be that. I don't know. Hard to say. But certainly the Miami Heat seem like in this spot where they only have one willing trade partner for a guy whose trade value is completely sunk, and that's what he wanted, right? Like, he wanted to napalm it so he could get to Phoenix, which he so got his heart set on going to. Now it's upon the Miami Heat, like, what can they get out of this? And, like, how many players are in the game for this? Are there more players in the game to facilitate trades and make things happen? Because it does feel like there's a lot of things and a lot of things spinning in the air right now. Tim Reynolds tonight tweeted, I've tried very hard not to give every 5-minute updates, but we'll say this because there seems to be even more angst than usual tonight. There are trade talks involving Jimmy Butler that are ongoing. Will the deal happen? No idea. Tons of moving parts, but it's ongoing. So I know that there's this idea from Heat fans right now. They're so exhausted by the Jimmy Butler thing. And that there's like even people who are like, just take Bradley Beal. Just take Bradley Beal and take the picks and just be happy with it. And just from my standpoint, I'm just in a spot where it's like, nah, I don't think so. I'm not in the spot where I'm going to go and bring in a guy who's getting paid max money for 3 years in a contract you didn't want to give Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to give to a player who probably serves less of a purpose to the Miami Heat. Not that he's not a good player, but I'm not like, it's a guy that I've wanted the Heat to have in the past, like for the right fit to kind of speed up the process when Tyler didn't look like he was quite ready for it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I've never wanted Bradley Beal. But like, you got to look at the timeline now of the team. Like, okay, Jimmy Butler's not here. Bradley Beal on this team. Does it fit? Does it work? Does it make any sense? Just not really. And especially with the idea that he has a no trade clause. If the Miami Heat could somehow get Mark Bottlestein, his agent, and Bradley Beal to agree to eradicate it from his contract and you get the picks, and that would make everything simpler, I would be, I would be more for it because at least you would have the flexibility of like, hey, if we really could get our way out of it by the end of it, okay. You can't just be stuck because he has no trade clause and he loves the beach, which, of course, once he gets here, he's not going to want to go. And this has really nothing to do with like the whole pipe dream or cap flexibility and all that, because there was some interesting stuff that came out with Luka today, especially from the Dallas Mavericks side of why they got rid of him. But I just don't see why the Miami Heat need to bend on all of this, because it's going to go one of two ways, right? It's going to be like, all right, let's say we get to the end of this suspension. Is Jimmy Butler going to play for the Miami Heat anymore? No. Even if the Miami Heat have to find even if Jimmy Butler bites his tongue and he says like, hey, I'll come back, stop fining me, he's still going to be on the bench and not playing. And there's going to be some weirdness at home games, I'm sure. But eventually I think they're going to get over it because like no one's going to answer about it. They've really been through every mechanism about it already. I do think you see a team that just feels lighter. They don't want it to go on anymore. I'm sure the players are like, ugh. But they have also gone through every scenario and every which way. And if we do get to Thursday and no resolution has happened, then it's like, and then what? And so what? Then Jimmy's big threat is, well, I'm going to opt in. And the Heat are going to be like, okay. And he's like, and then you better trade me to Phoenix. And if they're like, no, then what? Like, are you going to just sit a year and not play basketball again? Like, I suppose. But then you're at a spot where it's like, okay, do I really not want to play basketball and then just nuke my earning for the next year? So I get it. I get the threat, and I'm not saying that Jimmy Butler opting into a $52 million option is not annoying. It certainly is. The Heat have been in those tough spots before where they've had a lot of money on their books that they were kind of stuck with for whatever reason, that be it the Chris Bosh hell scare or whatever. So, I get it. I'm not expecting Jimmy Butler to do the Heat any favors at this point. The relationship, the bridge is more than burned. It's incinerated and like never to be seen again. It's incinerated and the ashes have blown away. So the idea that Jimmy Butler is going to play nice with the Miami Heat at any turn of this is like, no. I guess the question is, can the Heat convince any other team to be like, hey, do you want him as a rental? And they just rid themselves of that with a less poisonous contract to swallow? Yeah, possibly. That's why, like, when the whole lowering the prices thing came out, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I expected at this point. All this nonsense debate about, like, the Heat, you should have gotten out ahead of it. All right, but, guys, like, the damage is done. They didn't, and now we're here. And now you got to be like, all right, what's the place where you can find a resolution to this as a franchise that puts you in the least uncomfortable position? And taking on Bradley Beal with a no trade clause for 3 more years or 2.5 years, to me is, it's a non-starter. I don't think that's the place to go. If he waives it and it's off his contract and then you get the 3 picks on top of it and it unlocks things for you, all right. I mean, I suppose that's more doable. That's more doable. Is it still going to be the best fit for this team? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think so. Like, it's one of those things where it's just not a great solution. And I get Jimmy Butler from a petty standpoint wanted to put the screws to Pat Riley and want him to take the worst deal possible, because this is what this has been. I felt disrespected. You didn't pay me. We put all this dirt out on your name. Now we're suspending you for whatever reason. Well, I'm not going to go to the teams or any other team other than Phoenix, and you're going to take the contract. Dude, it's a horrible petty war right now that's going on between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. And it is, and also the thing that's gotten funny about it is it's not only exhausting for the fan base and annoying for the fan base, but now it's almost gone into irrelevance for this season, because everybody's now going to be focused on Luka going to the Lakers. What are the Mavericks going to be? And De'Aaron Fox going to Victor Wembanyama. They're going to be like, Jimmy Butler's going where? All right, cool. We heard about it for 3 months. And you have no even idea if it's going to have a significance on the title picture. Maybe it will. Maybe he'll dial it up. I can't imagine playing, just not playing basketball for a month is going to be an easy thing to leap in and just take over. If anybody could do it on a stop start, I suppose it could be Jimmy Butler. But I'm still very much team. Like, I'm not taking on the Bradley Beal contract, dude. Like, the Heat and not having Jimmy Butler, we now know what life looks like, right? It's still a pretty watchable product that I'm enjoying. I like watching Bam and Tyler do their thing. I like watching Khalil Ware and Nico. I like watching the young guys. That's just me. But I'm going to watch the games regardless, as far as what it's going to mean for the fan base and not watching Jimmy Butler anymore. I just don't think they're ever going to get to a point where he's going to play on a court for them again. And, then it's going to come down to the summertime and be like, well, you can leave if you want to leave. Because they're already at what? Once we get about the trade, there's 30 games left? Will that be more tolerable to Mickey to pay Jimmy Butler to go away? I don't know. I know that they've been super against that and they've wanted to take every dime that they could. Ergo, why Jimmy Butler is going to not want, or is going to push back on any team that is not the one that he wants to get to. Because even if it is just to make the Heat take the worst deal possible, you guys take my money, I'm going to make you take on the worst type of money that you don't want to take on. This is what we got going on right now, man. It's an ugly, petty standoff, but I also think it's kind of one of those that is losing a bit of steam with everybody too, because until he's back until Jimmy Butler is able to step back on a court and affect Miami Heat basketball, I just kind of think everybody's over it now. The players are over it, because even let's talk about this, right? This before the Luka trade, the number one story that was out there was Bernie Lee came out and he showed that the Heat didn't wait on the tarmac, and it's just all right, cool, they didn't wait on the tarmac, Bernie, great. We've all established this. This has been shot down by you, by Ethan Skolnick a couple of weeks ago, and now Mark Stein has come back and said, hey, by the way, Rachel Nichols said that they were waiting for hours, and I just want everybody to know that he wasn't waiting for hours. Okay, but forget that. Forget a throwaway line by Rachel Nichols and all that. It kind of buried the lead, which is the locker room is done with the dude. They're done with him because he packed up. And that's the thing that just can't be lost on all this. I say this as somebody who's a huge Jimmy Butler fan, or was a huge Jimmy Butler fan, especially, I was team pay Jimmy Butler. I knew that this was a possibility. Gotten into many debates about Leroy with this. But the number one thing that cannot be lost here is that locker room is f***ing tired of it. They're done with it, dude. They don't want to deal with it. He was rats off a ship on them. He wanted to get into a petty standoff with Pat Riley. He decided to, take sabbaticals and illnesses and ankle injuries and troll on Twitter and not play basketball very hard. And he decided that your season doesn't matter to me. All that matters to me is either getting my money and or getting back at Pat Riley. For guys that he's played with for 6 years. It's a terrible look. And if you wonder why there's not a robust market for him. Do the Heat have things on their side that are their fault? Yes, and I think I've called all those things out. But I'm talking about the guys in that locker room, the guys who have no power on it, okay, who are sitting there playing their asses off night in and night out, guys who do have good relationships with him and do respect him, and guys who have been playing with him for a while and are probably exhausted by it. And we want to sit here and still debate, oh, but they didn't really wait on the tarmac that long. Yeah, okay, dude. And also, he basically was playing games with fireworks coming out of his ass, like not trying. He was basically putting on a poor me, pouty effort look because whatever. He just didn't want to roll another ankle. So I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at this from the standpoint of like, we're still doing this. Like you're trying to like do, the plane didn't wait that long. It's like, yeah, but you missed the point of what was said, which was the locker room is tired of him and they got sick of it. And by the way, they should be. They should be. Contract status, no contract status. He is still the highest paid player on the team. He makes this year a lot more money than anybody on that team. And he packed it up. So why wouldn't you be sick of that? Like this whole back and forth that goes with this. I get it. Pat Riley said some things that hurt your feelings. Probably, was done way too harsh. Knew it at the time. But at that point, once we got to the second act of playing unbelievably lethargic, not trying, dude, like, all right, enough already. It really is like one of these things where just roll your eyes at it. So I, as a person who likes watching the basketball team, am like, dude, this is great. Okay. I like watching these young guys together do their thing, try and win games. Are they going to be the best team in the league? Probably not. But like everybody's got to put their refocus on things. The Miami Heat are no longer a contender. They're not rebuilding, but like they're retooling. And they're a young team now, and they're trying to get these guys all in a row, and then they'll see what their next move is. They did not handle the Jimmy Butler era well as far as like, could they ever get over the line on the final move? They didn't. They couldn't get Damian Lillard. They overpaid for Terry Rozier. They lost. They lost the Jimmy Butler era. They had some great moments. But as far as the window, it's shut. So now everybody has to look at this. This is a new window. This is where they start opening up the new window and what their next move is. And right now, it is making sure their decks are cleared, not taking on terrible contracts for no reason other than you want to be relieved of stress for 30 games. Damage is done, dude. We've been stressed out. It's been a hamster wheel of annoyance the entire time. So we'll see what happens to this. Maybe a move will be made. I hope it will. And honestly, like I hope Jimmy Butler, look, if it ends with Jimmy Butler going to Phoenix and he's happy in Phoenix and Bradley Beal is somewhere else and it doesn't lock up the Heat's cap, dude, I'm all for it. Cool. I'm not against Jimmy Butler going to Phoenix. Go to Phoenix. Play with Gila monsters and cacti for all I care, dude. I don't give a rat's ass. Go ahead. Will they do anything? Maybe. The guy has an incredible playoff switch. But, I mean, every Heat fan, everybody who talks about this team and roots for this team is just like, we get it, but I'm not sitting here telling you, like, I want the Miami Heat to make a terrible move to relieve my stress. Like, dude, the damage is done on that. We're all, like, callous on this stuff already. To sit here and be like, oh, I just want it to be over. Oh, trade for Bradley Beal. You win. Oh, f that. No way, dude. Sorry. Like, I'm not sitting here doing that. Are you crazy? And what? Like, and then, oh man, we have a player who's going to be redundant on the roster, who's making $1 gazillion, and we're going to be in the Suns' position. No thanks. With younger guys instead of even older win now guys. Yeah, no thanks. I'm not for that. So, Heat fans, you have the right to be pissed off right now. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sit here and make the team blameless. But they f***ed up. They weren't able to get over the finish line. They blew it last offseason. That's when it was blown. And for everybody who has like the clearest of hindsight, could they have seen this Jimmy Butler thing coming? Should they have? Should they have made those? Sure. Agreed. Fine. I'll give you that one. However, you know, would you have thought anybody would act this unprofessional to nuke their value? Man, I mean, it is an artful performance of Petty. You must admit that. It's been taken to levels that on both sides that have not quite been seen in a while. So I don't know how anybody could have seen that coming. The only thing that took the crown of that now has been Luka Doncic getting traded to the friggin' Lakers. So, you know, I'm not here to tell fans to not be mad. Feel how you want to feel. You're annoyed that you don't got De'Aaron Fox, and you're annoyed that, you know, the Mavs and Lakers had a backroom deal for Luka. I get you, dude. I love when the Heat are the ones on top and making the moves. And they haven't done that in a while lately. But, you know, I do think that you guys need to also put in check a little bit about where things are at and where things need to get to before you start, you know, getting yourself all in a tizzy about every friggin' move that's not happening right now. You know, like the De'Aaron Fox thing, pretty much from the outset said, hey, he wants to go to San Antonio. Does San Antonio have 3 first-round picks? Yes. Do the Heat? No. Did you want the Heat to give up Khalil Ware and Nikola Jovic? Because the reaction I saw was no. So, well, then he's going to go to the Spurs. I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, that's how it's going to go. We'll see if there's more updates throughout the night. That was a bit of a ramble, but I'm comfortable being back in my studio, not in some hotel room. It is good to be home. Looking forward to being back on the air tomorrow. And, yeah, we'll see if there's any other maneuvers throughout the night.